Well, it's a very good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening for some of you, wherever you are listening, either live or on your favorite streaming service. Welcome to the Coaching Cafe. My name is Dr. Natalie Ashdown, and I am joined on the line and excited to welcome back Paula Jones Hunt. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Well, we're picking up our conversation why a coaching mindset works for performance reviews in this coaching cafe. But before we begin, as always, let me acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodians on the lands on which we all meet today and their continuing connection to the land, waters, and the communities of Australia and the lands from all around the world where you've been joining us. We've just heard where everyone's dialing in from, and it's really a global community. So, wherever you might be joining us from all around the world, we pay our respects to them, their elders, past, present, and emerging, and elders from Indigenous communities from all around the world. Well, welcome to the series. We talked last week, and for the next couple of weeks, we'll be focusing our series of the Coaching Cafe on the annual performance review cycle because it's mid-year performance review cycle at the moment for many companies. And we have been talking last week, and we'll continue to talk about the trends and the move away from these annual and midterm events and the reasons for that. Today, we really want to focus on the coaching mindset that we can bring to our performance conversations, those regular conversations that we're actually encouraging. And we'll give you a couple of extra tools that are our favorite tools for this purpose as well. For those of you that are new to the Coaching Cafe, we say welcome. We are all about creating shared learning experiences, having thought-provoking conversations, and we offer ICF CCEs for free. And you can pick those up at the end of the session if you are listening to this live. And to our regulars who jump on the line and you jump on earlier so we can do the weather report around the world, we say welcome back. We absolutely love coming together with you every week, sharing these thought-provoking conversations and having our learned experience. And of course, you can interact with us via the chat bot, by the chat box, and we will pick up your comments and questions, etc. Thank you to everyone who's saying hello. We've got California and Florida and down the road in up the road in Canberra and across the road in Perth. We've got everyone represented. Tokyo will be joining the line soon as well. So welcome to everyone. Okay, so let's get into our conversation. Last week we actually shared with you the trends in performance conversations, and I just reminded people that when you have to really dig into the research, actually, because there's a lot of AI generated research available, you just have to dig in because what I noticed is with the research, a lot of when you go into AI, it's referencing research from many, many years ago. So, as in 2012, 2018, pre-COVID. So we really want to find out what's happening now in 2020 in 2026. So what's been happening over 24, 25, 26. So that's what we've been really focusing on. So I've basically cancelled out any research, but we're so the research that I'm giving you is the latest in the trends. So we did find out last week that actually 1 in 5 employees, so 20% of employees are reporting that their performance reviews are only 1 in 5 report that their performance reviews are transparent, fair, or inspire better performance. Now, this is really significant. Only 20% of people think that their actual performance reviews are fair, transparent, or inspire better performance. And that's one of the major reasons why organizations are actually moving away from the annual reviews and the midterm reviews as well. Only half of employees strongly agree that they know what's expected of them at work. That's a real concern, as we talked about last week. And interestingly, only about just over half employees formally review their performance goals with their manager once a year or less. So that then tells us that there's a big shift away from these annual reviews because only half of employees surveyed are actually doing those annual reviews. So we just wanted to update you with the stats that we talked about there. We know in terms of trends, and I've got lots of references there for you to go and check, that major companies companies have actually dumped that they are stopping, they are not continuing with the annual review. They're moving away from rigid annual review cycles. And the reason for that is because the conversations are just not working. In the landscape and the environments that we are working in, having a single or two reviews a year is just not working. They're not effective. They don't mean that we can change. They're not offering the feedback that people need. And so they're basically moving away from those. And there's a very strong movement which we have, and Paula, I know you have advocated for years and years that we move towards regular, ongoing conversations, and companies are moving towards more and more companies are moving towards frequent, meaningful check ins that drive clarity, feedback, and growth. Interestingly, there's also a very strong use of AI to provide inputs to reviews, which it does concern me a bit, but it's basically bringing in all the data, the insights, and the patterns to inform the reviews, and it produces drafts of those reports. So that's a really interesting move. And what I'm interested in from an AI perspective is how it's drawing in the data, but then we can use that data to think about each month as we're having those regular conversations, how we can act upon that data or what we can do. So we're still having the critical conversations and the critical human to human interaction that drive meaningful conversations. So I'm definitely not against the use of AI data, but it's been about how it's being used to have those meaningful, regular conversations that then mean that we can adapt and we can change and we can shift as we need to month on month. So, Paula, let me just pause. We did capture a lot of this last week, but I thought it's good just to give us a bit of a reference here. So, yeah, please jump in and tell me your thoughts here.
Yeah, my only addition to that is that with the use of AI is it depends on what your role is and what statistics it's pulling from. And there are some roles that would really lend itself to that. And then there are others that it's really difficult to, I'm not sure what it would be pulling. But if people are using it to help write what they want to say, so long as they've got their own human input into it and it makes it easier for managers, I think that's okay. Particularly for me, if that's what helps a manager write the reports and it means that they can focus on the conversation, then I'm all for the managers focusing on the conversation because it's far more important than the report because
Yeah.
it has a direct impact to the person.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I was going to add to that. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was going to add to that, that, I think we can then use AI to look at the trends as well. So, pulling in the data, looking at the trends, but using it so that we can have, as you said, those meaningful conversations about what's going to happen next month or what we can focus on next month, and capturing it, and then we can look at the trends over time, which is really a great idea. So anything where there's a movement to regular, ongoing conversations that allow us to have clarity, to get feedback, and then especially act on the feedback so we can grow and develop and increase our performance over time. Yeah, that's a really a great use of AI. We are focusing more today, though, and on the concept of the coaching mindset and how we can really bring this coaching mindset through the conversations we're having. And of course, we're on the line, aren't we, with a group of wonderful coaches, many of who have been trained by us as well. I think where I want to emphasize is that we may be coaching managers who are coaching their people. Um, and a lot of you will be doing that. You may be a manager who has to conduct regular reviews, and so it's just a reminder, I think, about how we can really take a coaching mindset to the work that we're doing and reminding us that there's never been a better time for coaching. It was a quote that Sir John Whitmore gave me almost 10, 15 years ago. And it's a quote that I'm bringing through everything we talk about because with the rate of change and the rate of disruption and the stress levels increasing in our organization, the strong desire to keep high performance whilst everything is going on around us, never has there been a better time for coaching. to bring that coaching mindset. So, Paula, I'd love you to take us through this actually, because we've got the attributes there and things that we need to think about. And I'd be really keen if you want to take us through that coaching mindset as it applies to these performance conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key is that previously managers in particular thought that they had to do most of the talking in performance
Yeah,
review.
good point.
And
Yeah.
I think that the coaching mindset really flips that on its head, that says, actually, let's do more listening. Let's ask more great questions, and get the person for whom it's about to really bring them into the conversation. So it's listening to it's listening to hear what the person is saying and how they're saying it. It's asking those really great questions, not only about what happened, but what did that mean for you and what changed for you, or what might you do differently moving forward, which heads into that reflection piece. So that coaching mindset, it's not just about the what happened, it's but what does that mean for you? And pulling through those insights. So turning that learning into insights around what will happen moving forward, and getting the person to really think about what will their focus be moving forward. What's clarifying what that means, and what growth do they need to meet those goals that they're focusing on. And I think that this genuinely builds trust for people, because we know that in that coaching space that if we are asking great questions and supporting the person and allowing them to find their way forward and it being about them, that it builds trust and creates safety, which we know that for lots of managers, it's actually a really big area for staff, is how much the staff trust their manager and their organization. And it links into empowerment. So enabling the ownership, the confidence for that person to know that what they're going to do moving forward is what they've helped to craft. And so that coaching mindset really leans itself into the performance conversations.
Yes, and what I'm hearing from what you've shared, and of course, if you are wanting the slide, you can pick it up on the YouTube or pick it up on our podcast later. What I am hearing is that we are flipping, as you said, from me as the manager telling you about your performance to actually having you as the staff member, the team member, the employee, asking you powerful questions so you can reflect, encouraging your self-awareness and your perspective so you can get meaningful insights about your performance, and then switching that to a focus on what we're doing next. How does that enable growth? How does it empower you to move forward? And in doing that, as you said, Paula, builds that trust, builds that rapport. It means that we actually move the needle and the dial on these whole conversations, that they're not just annual conversations, they're regular, they're meaningful, they're actually empowering, they enable growth, they enable focus, they enable self-reflection. So it is actually truly what we're aiming for. Um, and using these attributes and this coaching mindset to have those regular conversations is obviously what we're advocating. Thank you. And we did offer last week, and I'll just recap this as well. When we're thinking about enabling people within thinking about their performance and their regular performance and how they're performing this week and this month, etc., we really are encouraging this reflective review and a framework for the reflective review where people are thinking about what is going well. So the proud is around what is going well and what have they achieved, and how did they play to their strengths. We're thinking, helping them think about where did they experience challenges and what's been the impact of the challenge? How did they overcome them? And what's outstanding? What are we going to be working on next month to overcome those challenges or next period? And the real focus on not just where we've come from, but where are we going? So what can we focus on for continuous improvement? What does the data tell us? Where do we need to change, or what do we need to do differently? And then what we want to see is then a translation into reports and how we can move into plans, I should say, how we can move forward. What's the plan for the next period? And I say period because it could be what's the plan for next week. to enable our high performance? What's the plan for the next month to enable our high performance? Uh, I'm finding more and more organizations are documenting their plans in shorter periods, and we're measuring our performance against shorter periods. So that's a really important insight to remember that the longer the plan, things change, and so we can't have these plans that go out 3, 5, 10 years because we don't even know where we're going to be. So in setting the intention about where we want to be, and then the really tactical ways of going about it. And then, of course, we can use AI data and everything we have around us to actually measure it. Paula, did you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I think the idea that we don't have to put in a 12-month plan seems like a long time these days. And businesses are moving and things are changing so quickly that having that flexibility, which is why the monthly, at least a monthly conversation is really critical for managers, is because things change and move and we need to be agile enough to be able to move with that. It doesn't mean we can't do some longer term planning, but if we're having regular conversations, it's much easier to be able to be flexible and work with whatever changes are coming along.
Yeah, and adapt as we see changes in our internal or our external environments as well. It's not that we just throw out the plans every single month. We go, well, that didn't work, we'll throw it out. It is about, having our targets and our plans and then being able to adapt, as you said. Yes, definitely. So we offered that tool, and those of you that have done our Certificate 4 in Workplace and Business Coaching program will be really familiar with this tool. And we offer it again here so that you can have a think about it. And then the other tool that I want to offer you is the coaching approach to capturing the plan as well. Because what I have found, Paula, and you can tell me what you think, but having these kind of rigid plans that we have to fill out, in the past it used to be just cut and paste your job description and put it in the HR's document and go, there's my plan. It's what we said my job was. That's my plan to do my job. And it was a real tick the box kind of exercise. So I'm looking, and we offer this as a short, sharp way of keeping our goals and our plans in front of us. And for those of you that can't see the screen, it's basically a 2 by 2 matrix, and the goal is across the top and actions across the bottom. And we're asking ourselves really good coaching questions here that in order to achieve the goal, the top right-hand quadrant is in order to achieve the goal, what do we need to start doing in order to achieve the goal? And the bottom corner is what do we need to do more of to achieve the goal? And I like framing things in these ways that there could be things that we actually need to start doing in the next week or the next month. But there's things that we need to do more of because we are already succeeding and we need to continue those things into the next period. So a great example might be that if I'm having meetings that are really tightly framed and they're specific about what goal we're trying to achieve, and we walk out of those meetings having made decisions, then we want to do more of that and keep that habit going. Or if we haven't, in order to achieve higher performance, I might need to start doing that, changing the frames of meetings or changing the approach to meetings so we're getting more out of our meetings. And then on the other side, we have what we need to stop. So on the left-hand side, what we need to stop doing. And I like this because I'm thinking about performance, and there will be things that we are doing that are just getting in our way of high performing. So, what do we need to stop doing? Or rather than go cold turkey and stop all that reporting and stop all this and stop all that, what do we actually need to do less of? So perhaps less meetings or less filling out spreadsheets and more using AI. So you can see it might be less of the manual work and more of the using AI or agentic AI to actually to do the powerful work that we need, so we can spend more time analyzing the data and looking for trends and making changes. So I really like a 2 by 2 matrix. Start more of, stop, and less of, and then that then drives the way forward. And for me, when I draw this up, I literally draw it up, I leave it in my notebook, and I refer to it, or I stick it up on my wall. A bit of blue tack. It's not fancy. It's not even documented in a Word document. It's just there's my plan. It's on the wall. So I really use this approach for all areas of performance that I'm trying to work on because there's many areas where I'm trying to high perform. And so I'll use this for any of those areas in my personal life and in my professional life as well. Paula, what are your thoughts about, your two by two rather than a lengthy HR document? It's kind of a leading question, isn't it, really? But yeah, go on, tell me your thoughts.
Well, that's okay. I actually think this is this beautiful moment in a performance review or the conversations that you're having with staff to actually stop and think about the things that we're doing.
Mm.
So, looking at it from a whole perspective that says, let's have a look. If we want to achieve this in the next month, what could you start doing now that would help get you there? And then what could you stop doing? And often people say, there's nothing I can stop doing. But when you really dig into it, there are things that you could stop doing, but we need the time to actually think about what we could stop doing. So this gives you a little moment in time to really think about it. And it's not just physical things that you can start, stop more of, less of. It's also thoughts that you're having about things. There was an example that I have of my own was I kept talking about all the communication I was getting as noise. And I realized I was giving it a negative connotation, calling it noise, when it's really information that I need. And so I had to stop calling it noise and start calling it information. And I needed to have more control of when I heard the information or how I approached the information. And I needed to do less of instant responding to things because it was impacting other areas. So it's not just I'm going to go to less meetings, which would be, I'm sure there's others on the line who agree with us, they'd love to do, but it's more that mindset as well that's around how am I approaching what's happening and what can I change about my inner thoughts about this as well. So I love this little snapshot, this moment in time to step back and sort of take a bird's eye view of what's happening and then choose the path that you want to move forward to meet the objectives or the goal that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, thank you, Paula, and thanks for sharing that as well. Because to be honest, I had never. It's a really excellent rate reframe, isn't it, that you've offered us there? And I'm thinking those reframes come into it because that is actually the coaching mindset. You can say I need to start thinking positively about this, or you actually reframe. It's not noise, it's information. And so if it's information, then therefore, how do I gather that information, use that information, disseminate that information? How do I receive it? When do I receive it? So you can see once you do that reframe, all of the great coaching questions come out. And it is all around because we want to be high performing. We want to be at our best in terms of our performance. So what we're really trying to emphasize, I think, and I get this from what you've said, is we're trying to emphasize what enables us to be high performing in all areas of our work, in all areas of our personal life as well. And I'm not talking, psycho freak out, burn ourselves out, high performance. I'm talking about that performance zone where we stay in a zone where we are high performing and as you said, picking up the mindset, the reframes, the then translating that into a simple two by two is such a really lovely idea because I think sometimes we do just focus on the task or the physical, as you said, and not what's actually happening internally and removing that interference for the performance as well. Thank you. So there you have it, everybody. It will be no surprise to many of you on the line that this coaching approach that we're talking about, and it's trying to do a big reframe that performance reviews and performance plans are also dirty words. It's that in actual fact we're saying that reviews of our performance and plans around our performance are really, really important it's just about how we're using them and how we're reframing them so that they work for us and they enable our high performance rather than being something that interferes with our performance. Paula, just as we're finishing up, anything else you'd like to add?
I was actually just thinking, because I am a HR nerd, around the fact that you could take this, the stop, start, more of, less of, and apply it from a performance review perspective and think about, as a manager, as a leader, as someone coaching people, how can we start to, what are some of the things we could do to start shifting those performance reviews to being really great, challenging conversations with people? What would we need to stop in order for that to happen? What would we do? What would we do less of? Um, but because it links back to that coaching mindset of how am I going to approach this as a manager? How am I going to approach this from, even from the HR perspective? How do we turn, if our goal is to increase engagement with our teams, how do we utilize our regular conversations with managers to do that?
Yeah, wonderful. And there's some comments there around can we use this in executive coaching? And absolutely. I use these tools. These come from our certificate for workplace and business coaching, so they will be familiar to a number of people. The answer is yes. I get a flip chart out and I draw up the 2 by 2. You can use it with teams. 4 pieces of flip chart. Across the top, one's got start, more of, stop, and less of. So for flip charts and drawing that up to work with teams, drawing it up for ourselves in your notebooks and sticking it on the wall like I do. Or it's really, really flexible and it's practical. And I actually use it on a day-to-day basis in executive coaching, in team coaching for myself. And you've given us a call to action, Paula, to use the actual document to reframe how we do performance reviews as well. So thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone. That brings us to the conclusion of our coaching cafe. And as always, we do welcome you all to have a think about our certificate for workplace and business coaching and our diploma in leadership coaching. It's the end of financial year, and we definitely welcome any money you'd like to park with us at this time of year as well. Please reach out and ask us for an invoice if you're thinking about your coaching development and your ongoing development for the people around you as well. And thank you, everyone who's saying it's a great reminder and using our structures and our frameworks in this way. We really acknowledge and appreciate you being here with us today. So, we will say, as always, we welcome you to connect with us, join us for our next coaching cafes. And as we always say, happy Friday to you who are listening. And as always, enjoy your coaching. We'll say goodbye for now.